The Battletoads are finally back after oh wow, are you serious? 25-year hiatus? Excluding some badass cameos, of course, but jeez. And they look very 2020s, which of course isn't a bad thing, but the Toads I remember embodied everything that made the 90s epic, radical, totally awesome. Often trapped in the shadow of the original NES title, right there next to the Double Dragon team-up, Battletoads the arcade game is just oozing with style, testosterone, and gore. Forget just about beating up the baddies. This game is all about completely destroying them. Crush them, shoot them, roast them, and show them who's boss. Look, I loved the first 2.5 levels of Battletoads just as much as the next kid, but Battletoads Arcade is the one you want to play, and can actually beat. Released back in 1994 by Rare and EA of all companies, Battletoads Arcade, sometimes referred to as Super Battletoads, is a 3-player co-op beat-em-up that really does understand what makes the beat-em-up genre great, but still ended up biting the big one, falling by the wayside next to other amazing arcade beat-em-ups like X-Men and Simpsons, never getting the physical release it so rightfully deserved. That is, until 2015, 21 years after its debut in arcades as part of the Rare Replay collection on Xbox One. And you know what? Maybe that was for the best. Battletoads Arcade is an awesome looking title that while probably could have been done justice, a la Battletoads and Battlemaniacs and Turtles in Time, and reportedly there was at one point an SNES and Game Boy port in the works, but the fact is that had it been released then, it probably would have not only had to have been scaled back graphically, especially for the Game Boy title, but probably would have been censored pretty hard too. Because while looking great on a technical level, transforming animation sprites look really cool, bosses that get damaged throughout battle is something I wish more games did, and even some traces of early 3D make the art in this game shine. But what really makes it stand out is the style. The Battletoads are not afraid to get dark and gritty, with battle-torn levels and hardened enemies, but while still having some tongue-in-cheek about them. I particularly get a kick out of the signs in the snow level, but honestly the real draw is the combat and character animations. Battletoads does not hold back on the violence, gore, and crude humor. Slam your foes to the ground and give them the drill. To the face. Got a group that needs to go? Give them the old Alice in Wonderland treatment. That traditional big enemy kills you, and then has the audacity to laugh at you? Oh boy. Yeah, and here's the thing. While the sheer spectacle of laying out your enemies is something to behold, it's really not what makes the combat great. After all, even at just an hour long, with pretty low replay value, the spectacle does start to dry up. But how it feels never goes away. Our 3 heroes, Rash, Sit, and Pimple, only play slightly differently, the fast, medium, and heavy dynamic, sharing basically the same attacks. They all really do just do the same thing, but these hits, they feel brutal, they feel satisfying, almost cathartic, especially after you respawn. You know what they say about payback. And what really helps keep the flow going is how it breaks up the gameplay. This is something that Battletoads in general has always been pretty good at. Now, I've talked about other beat 'em up games on this channel before, and how they're just, okay at best, usually average. And what I find to be one of the key flaws is that they tend to let the combat get repetitive, basically just beating up hordes of foes from start to finish. Battletoads does this too, of course, but it takes a different approach. Spanning 6 levels and 1 bonus stage, enter your Street Fighter homage here, only 3 of them actually use the traditional beat 'em up formula, which they do well by the way. Epic punches, run attacks, grappling, and a jump attack are all standard for the genre. but they still feel great. And with Uzis, exploding crates, and giant, whatever you want to call these, peppered in, they help keep the combat from getting stale. All that's really missing is a special. But hold that thought. The second level is more of a side-scroller beat 'em up with a bit more focus on dodging and maneuvering. But it's these two levels that really shake things up. You get a descending cave stage, and this is where the Toads finally get that special attack. Brutal. And holy crap, look at these guys burst. And the final stage is actually a shooter, complete with a special and multiple power-ups. Spread gun, anyone? Though it is a bit odd that they end on this one instead of the traditional beat 'em up style. But whatever, it's cool, keeps things interesting. Though stages as epic as flying through space to take down a space station does highlight one of the game's major flaws: the music. The music in BattleToads Arcade is pretty awesome, but you can barely hear it. It's unfortunately drowned out by the combat, which is a shame because bombastic battles need bombastic music. Well, at least the sound effects are awesome. Also, while not much of an issue, considering how much they want you to dodge in this game, especially in the final stage, the Toads movements are a bit stiff. Not major, but it will result in more deaths than you like. And speaking of the Reaper, have you played the OG BattleToads? This franchise's legacy is steeped in gamer rage. You might as well just super glue your Game Genie to the cart, for Christ's sake. And the arcade game does follow this trend, but in a more traditional way. Basically, it's an arcade game. It's designed to eat quarters by stomping a mud hole in you. But games like TMNT, Captain Commando, and Spiderman were no different. And like them, as long as you had the dough, you'd be fine. Plus, the game does have a few iotas of skill about it. Mastering the invincibility frames of your attacks and weapons will help you go far. And all things considered, this one isn't that rough. Especially for the source material. Flying solo at 25 cents a life, it took me around $7 to see this one through to the end. So, typical of a good arcade beat 'em up. And realistically, since this is a ROM of a game dumped onto a disc, you have unlimited lives. So the quarter comparison only really counts if you set a limit for yourself or you hit up an actual arcade. You know, assuming you could find one. As a kid, I first played this one in a skating rink of all places. And be forewarned, should you play this game on an actual arcade machine, bring friends. Co-op actually makes this game a little easier, so it'll save you some coin. But on that note, my final minor gripe with the rare replay version is the multiplayer. This game is 3-player couch co-op, but there's no online co-op. And I mean, come on, some games on this collection have it, so why not add it in? I actually wanted to play this game with a buddy on the other side of the country, but nope. It's a shame, but again, it's still only a minor complaint. It doesn't really take away from the overall game. And I mean, ROMs, parsec, hint hint, wink wink, stomp stomp. And regardless, the couch co-op is still pretty sweet. In fact, the entire game is. BattleToads the arcade game is an amazing beat 'em up of the arcade genre that has aged well, and I can highly recommend it. Its style alone is worth the journey, and the combat is simply satisfying. And not to spoil anything, but the ending is so bad that it's great. You gotta check it out. Honestly, any real issues with the game are just small potatoes, with average sound and no online multiplayer being the worst of it. That and the fact that there is like zero replay value. But you know what? That's fine. This is one of those games you bust out with your friends for a quick gaming session, then forget about for a year or two, but then when you're all trying to think of something to play, someone says, "Hey, you guys remember that crazy BattleToads game?" And then you break it out again and have a good time. Rinse and repeat. It's one of those games. Obviously, if you don't like beat 'em ups or this level of violence and crude humor irks you, then you might want to steer clear. Which is what I'd normally say, except that BattleToads Arcade is bundled as part of the Rare Replay collection, which has a little bit of something for everyone. If you have an Xbox One, it's a staple game to own, and if you do, you should at least give BattleToads a try. It's pretty fun. Hey everyone, hope you enjoyed that. If you like arcade style beat 'em ups, I've got plenty more reviews on those you can go check out. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to stomp that subscribe button to see more from me in the future. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.